Hello, everybody. Steve is letting everyone into the room. As soon as we think we've got the majority, we'll get started. How we doing, Steve?
I think we're in pretty good shape. We still have a couple of people who must have got hung up on 128. Um, we we're missing about a dozen folks, but um, I'll, I would say that we don't want to delay it, Dory, for
Good,
those
let's
who
go.
arrive promptly. So I would say if you would like to get the tech
Sure.
talk going.
Hi, everybody. This is a bot speaking to you now in the MBREA's first ever Tech Talk. Uh, this is designed to continue for members throughout the year to bring you some very scintillating information in the tech world of appraising. And today we have Tom Whiting, who's a trustee for the MBREA, lending his expertise in using AI in your appraisal reports. We ask you to stay muted until closer to the end, and we'll open it up for some questions. Thanks, everybody. Now, Tom, are you ready to wow us?
I'm ready to wow you. Um,
Thank you.
as Dory said, I'm Tom Whiting. I'm a certified general real estate appraiser. I started back in 1987 as an IT and researcher for a small appraisal firm in Arlington. Um, I now live in Cape Coral, Florida, but I still practice in Massachusetts. Um, I became interested in AI since the movie 2001. Um, and I've been fooling around with AI as much as I can allow myself to, sometimes too much, and not always in the appraisal field, but I've been playing around with it a lot in appraisal. And AI seems to be a topic that's on everybody's minds lately. Um, Appraisers definitely need to be aware of AI. Eventually, it, it it could help us as an assistant. I would I don't think we have to worry yet about it taking over our jobs, but it definitely can be a useful assistant to us. And in today's talk, we're going to talk about the practical uses of AI, how to comply with USPAP, and the best practices for using AI. In the use of AI, the appraiser has a great deal of responsibility. Uh, and as always, you as an appraiser, us as appraisers, are solely responsible for the content of our appraisal reports. Um, we all analysis, opinions, and conclusions remain our responsibility. You can't give that off to the AI or anybody else. Um, and AI is just a tool. It's not a substitute for your professional judgment. Um, for example, AI, you can't use AI to pick what are the best comps. You have to use your own judgment for what are the best comps. Um, but it can help you, it can assist you in writing, it can assist you in some analysis as long as you know what's happening. Um, One area that I use AI is helping me write the tedious stuff, the narrative parts of the appraisals, like maybe a little bit with neighborhood descriptions. I have it help a little bit with comp descriptions. I do, in my practice, I do all narrative reports. So I have to write up my sales in a special format that's readable to everybody. Then it's not like a residential form. Um, but I provide the facts for the AI to use to create its narrative descriptions. Um, and I'll show you some examples of how that's done in a little while. And everything that the AI does for you, you need to go through it and make sure that it makes sense. AI is still subject to hallucinations. Um, it's it's mostly useful. Sometimes it'll try to inject its own opinion if your prompt doesn't specifically tell it, even if your prompt does tell it to specifically keep its opinions out, it might inject them in there, and you need to make sure that the opinions that show up in your report are yours. With AI comes a special, it, you still need to keep records of what you do, and you need to keep records of your prompts and your outputs, and that's pretty easy to do within each AI. When you're done with your AI session, you can just tell it to print your session out to a PDF and put that into your either physically into your work file or into your electronic work file. I think most of us probably work with electronic work files, but I still know a couple people that do paper. Um, everything that you do, well, everything that's pertinent to your report that you do with AI should be in your work file so that you can reproduce whatever happened, you know, reproduce your opinion based on what's in your work file. And as always, documentation supports transparency and compliance. Um, you, you should disclose which parts of the report you had AI assist you with. I believe I'm not sure, Steve, we're going to provide a disclosure template, right, at the end of this?
Yes, it just needs a little bit more work on it, and then
Mhm.
we'll email it out.
Uh, you should disclose that AI was not relied upon to create your appraisal conclusions, and it shouldn't. And you should disclose that the information provided by the AI was independently verified by you. One of the places where AI can be useful is in the identification of a subject property. Um, I use it to, well, one example is a property that I appraised in Chelmsford just recently. The deed reference on the assessor's card referred to a deed that described the property differently than it existed as of the time of the appraisal. There was a little square piece of the parcel that wasn't included anymore in that parcel. The the deed gave a reference. Uh, the meets and bounds didn't match what the assessor's plan was showing for the property. And through that, I was able to determine that there had been another deed since what the assessors had recorded in their records. That doesn't happen something like that doesn't happen very often, but it happens enough. And it's really helpful in finding inconsistencies and things like that. One thing I found that AI is really good at is interpreting assessors data. It can read a field card in about a second. and put and organize the information that's in the field card in a way that's useful to an appraiser, rather than keeping all those, the different codes in different sections. It can organize it really nicely. And you can use that to compare that information to what you see when you actually go to the property. And one really cool thing that some of the AIs have been able to do, and everything that I'm talking about today is based on ChatGPT, but a lot of the different AIs can do it, is interpret photographic data. And I'll show you an example of that later in this presentation. Looks like my first example is going to be a property that I'm really familiar with, where the deed is inaccurate about the property boundaries. I'm going to show you how it's amazing what AI can do to read public documents like deeds. It can read the meets and bounds. It can look at the measurements. It can let you know if the lot can close itself, like the boundaries all match up to form a parcel that's the size that the deed says it is, if the deed says how big the parcel is. And it's a really useful tool for that. Here's the deed for the property that I'm using as an example. This is a property that I owned until a couple of years ago in Lowell. And you can see in the meets and bounds that this lot does not close. One side is 109.51 feet, one side is 44 feet, one side is 9.17 feet, and the fourth side is 45 feet. And that just can't close, especially since it's a rectangular a lot. If you're in a rush, you might not notice this. So I asked the AI to analyze the deed. The deed that the AI didn't notice it on its first pass through. So AI isn't perfect. And actually, none of the AIs that I tested it on, including Claude, Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, none of them caught that the lot couldn't close based on the measurements. But then I prompted AI to look for, I asked AI, is the lot geometrically logical? And then it found that it was not. And I showed it a copy of the site plan, and it compared it to the meets and bounds, and it concluded that the lot that measured the bound that was 9 feet actually probably was 109 feet, and that it was a Scrivener's error at some point. And that's almost identical to what I did with the property in Chelmsford that I was telling you about earlier. And it gives you a logical reason to use the assessor's site plan as the source of the lot size, as opposed to the meets and bounds.
So, Tom, this is where the appraiser's making these judgments, right?
That's
So
right.
plugging it in, seeing that there's a difference,
Right.
and, verifying. And then, within a report saying, this is what I found, this is what I verified, this was a discrepancy, right? But this is
Exactly.
one way to bring you to that point.
Yes. I mean, an appraiser probably would have found that by themselves as well. But you can find the reason for it a lot faster. I remember back in my early days as an appraiser running across things like this and taking hours and hours trying to figure out where the discrepancy was and why it existed. So while AI isn't perfect, it can be a useful tool to help you with this sort of thing. Um, so Dory's exactly right. And this is an appropriate use of AI because AI was used for summation, organization, and logical review only. It didn't provide any interpretation of the law or make value conclusions. Uh, the appraiser independently identified, verified, and resolved the discrepancy. Um, Professional judgment, verification, and disclosure remained with the appraiser. And it always has to, no matter what kind of tool you use. And okay, the next example is field card review of the same property, actually. Um, and the prompt was, please review the attached assessor's field card for the subject property. Extract and organize the factual information into appraisal style categories, including property identification, site characteristics, improvements, area calculations, assessment history. Uh, do not, part of the prompt is to do not perform valuation analysis, make assumptions beyond what is stated, or draw conclusions. And do it based only on the information contained in the field card. Because one thing AI can do is you can give it an address and it can give you information about that particular property based on a myriad of sources, brokers' data, things that it finds on the internet. But you want to keep it based on information that you provide. Otherwise, it could be looking at almost anything. And some of the information out there, even though assessor's information isn't always accurate, at least it's standardized. Um, if it's looking at things that you don't know what it's looking at, that could be problematic. So this is a copy of the field card. And we all know that field cards can be a little bit complicated to look at, where to find the information that you're looking for. I don't think sorry about that. But what the AI provides is it organizes the information into bits that the appraiser can use more easily. I should have provided a slide that showed how it broke it down, but it breaks it down into construction characteristics, year built, um, the utilities that the property has access to and uses, um, construction materials, roof materials and type, um, the gross living area, the assessment values and the assessment history, and it doesn't provide an interpretation of the value as long as you tell it to. One of the interesting things is that AI seems to be when you approach it as an appraiser, it gives you appraiser-like answers, and it refers to things like USPAP and valuation practices, but it's not always accurate. Sometimes when it refers to USPAP, it's referring to things that don't even exist. So you have to be careful about what information it gives you. You still have to go through all all the information it gives you, but it gives it to you really, really fast. And one of the reasons the reasons that it's useful to us is it gives us a rapid organization of dense data, it can create a draft narrative framework for your description of the property, especially if you're doing a narrative type report. I'm not sure how much it would help organize information for you guys that do residential forums. It shows you what information you need to verify. In Lowell, almost every building that was built between 1800 and 1920 was built in 1900. Usually that's useful. That's usable because it shows up on the field card. But I know for a fact that this property was built between 1880 and 1890, even though it gave a date of 1900. It reduces your clerical effort while preserving your control over the appraisal, and it helps support your compliance with USPAP and MBREA guidance. And both of those things are professionally important. Now I'm going to show some examples of how AI can help with describing different things from photographs. AI is getting really, really good at looking at photographs and helping design produce a narrative description of an area or a property. I gave these two photographs, which are street views from a particular property, and it provided a very with the following prompt, it provided a really good description of the neighborhood. Please describe the street and surrounding residential neighborhood based solely on what is visible in the photographs. Limit the description to observable features such as street characteristics, housing type, scale, landscaping, and infrastructure. Do not infer market value, condition ratings, or demographic characteristics. This one, I find that despite even asking it not to provide condition ratings, it often wants to do that. Sometimes it wants to be way more helpful than you want it to be. So again, while going through the output of AI, it's important to weed those things out, and so that everything that's in the report is your opinion, is your judgment. But it is good at most of the time, using neutral appraisal style language. It created a narrative description based on those photographs in very, very little time. It actually produced this, it saw these features without me having to do anything. It's a 2-lane paved residential street with a center line and narrow shoulders, visible pavement wear, patching, and storm drainage features, primarily detached single-family homes with modest scale and traditional styles, minimal landscaping, mature trees, and overall characteristics, appears like a quiet, established residential in nature neighborhood, which is, if we go back to the pictures, that's pretty much what it is. And that took almost no time for it to produce. And it can do the same thing for commercial neighborhoods too. This is a property along Route 9. I believe it's in Shrewsbury. I prompted it with, please describe the, I didn't even tell it was a commercial neighborhood, actually. That I don't allow that. But please describe the neighborhood shown in the photographs as it would appear in a commercial appraisal report. Base the description only on observable roadway, land use, access, and development patterns. Do not analyze the highest and best use or market value. Use neutral professional appraisal terminology. And it came up with, it's a multi-lane divided arterial roadway designed for high traffic volumes. It has predominantly commercial land uses, including retail and auto-oriented services, which is correct. The buildings are set back from the roadway with parking, with surface parking and prominent signage, also correct. Limited pedestrian infrastructure, there are no sidewalks. The development is auto-dependent, which is true. And overall character is high exposure commercial corridor environment. All of those things are true, but you have to double check. Sometimes, little things can sneak in. They didn't in this case. And there's probably some things it missed that you saw when you were at the site. It doesn't include the traffic count. It doesn't include the name of the road. On another pass, I told it that it was Route 9 in Shrewsbury, and it provided a bunch of other information as well. Some of it useful, some of it less useful. And for the final portion, photo interpretation, I used the same commercial property that's on that frontage as an example of how AI can describe a property. I didn't tell it what kind of a property it was. I just asked it to describe it. Please describe the commercial building shown in the photographs. Include observable construction features, utilities, parking, and site improvements. Do not infer interior condition beyond what is visible or draw value conclusions. And again, use appraisal report narrative language. And this is what it came up with. I didn't tell it was a restaurant, but it says it's a freestanding single-story commercial building designed for restaurant use, which it is. Masonry and wood frame construction with pitched asphalt shingle roof. I think there's also some sections of rubber roof there as well, but that's a good start. Rooftop HVAC units, visible, consistent with food service use. I probably wouldn't put that consistent with food service use in my report. It also looked at the parking. It has on-site paved stripe parking with direct roadway access. And the improvements appear average to good. This is where you have to make your own judgment if you're going to include something like that in. And it did, as I said before, give me this information, even though I specifically didn't ask for it. The improvements appear average to good condition based on observable features. And then one other aspect that I sometimes use AI for is reviewing my report before I turn it in. And for this, you have to be somewhat careful. You don't want to include any confidential information when using an AI tool. You can't be certain what a public-facing AI is going to be doing with the data that you input into it. They often tell you that they're not saving it, but they do use it for training purposes. For continuing to train their AI. The AI is constantly being trained on all sorts of data. it's constantly improving, and you don't want your confidential data or your client's confidential data getting out there into the wild, and especially in a way that it could be identifiable and traced back to you. Um, when it does suggest an edit to your report, um, make sure that it's accurate. Sometimes it'll ask you, it'll suggest a change that doesn't make any sense. And you need to make sure, well, one thing it's useful for is making sure your report is consistent. But in the process of making sure that your report is consistent, make sure that it does not change what your opinion is within that report. And one of my suggestions to make sure no confidential data gets into the AI is just to have it review various sections of your report individually, like your highest and best use section, your history and recent use section. Have it look at your sales write-ups if they're in narrative style. Have it look at your neighborhood description, make sure it's written properly. Um, Make sure that all the references to the property describe the same type of property. Like if you're appraising a restaurant, make sure all the references to the property are as a restaurant, not a repair garage or an apartment building or something like that. Um, it's really, really useful for things like that. Um, make sure you agree with any changes. Address the inconsistencies only if they're valid. And as always, you are fully responsible for the final report and its conclusions. And I got through that way faster than I thought I was going to get through it. And this is the MVREA's guidance on using artificial intelligence. And I think that we'll be able to provide that later as well. Is that right, Steve?
Tom, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You've been doing it a long time, right? You've got
Yes.
all these prompts all set up.
Yep.
How long did it take you to figure out the right prompts? So appraisers here in the audience, right? So how do they figure out the best way to ask or to cut and paste or copy or scan or, you know, give us a little more meat on that, can you?
Yeah, when I first started creating prompts, it was more by trial and error. Like I would see what prompts worked, and then the prompts that worked I would save and expand upon. Um, at first, I would just say, please describe the neighborhood, and it would give me a brief description, not including some of the things. Then I would say, please describe the neighborhood, including the streets, including available utilities, um, whether there are sidewalks or not. Just tell me whether there are curbs on the street. Um, and then with each refinement, I would save it, and I save it in my Word file in a Word file with just a list of various prompts. When I ask it to describe, well, yeah, when I ask it to describe a property from pictures, I've just started doing that, and I sort of included that in this presentation just to show how far AI has advanced in the last couple of years. A year ago, I don't think it could do that. In 2 years, um, who knows what it's going to be capable of at the rate that it's advancing. Um,
Thank you, Tom.
you're
So,
welcome.
Steve, let's open it up for some questions. Let's do that.
absolutely.
Has
Um,
anyone got a question at all? Thank you, Tom.
so why don't we talk a little bit more about prompts because that's probably one of the more important parts of using AI these days. And Tom has just talked a little bit about prompts and writing them. How do you learn more about it? Well, the way I did it was, went onto YouTube and I asked for videos on how to write prompts for Chat GPT. And I was amazed because I always thought prompts were relatively simple, but I was amazed at how complex they can become and how detailed, just as Tom was showing in some of his slides here. So, I would suggest that you take time to think through what it is that you want to receive as a result of using the AI, and then write the prompt that will get you there. And if you're not all the way there, then go back and ask it to do something else. Just a real quick example from last night. We're doing this drop-in MBREA social drop-in at the Treehouse Brewing and Sandwich. This is a commercial, by the way. Um, but I wanted to email everybody in our database who is in Cape Cod, and I was trying to figure out, well, how do I segregate, that group of individuals out of our database? So I had a list of well over 1,000 names. I brought it into Chat GPT, and I said, "Would you extract from this list any record that has a zip code that's on Cape Cod?" And probably 15 to 20 seconds later, I had a cleaned up Excel file of just those people, and was then able to put out a kind of a personal email invitation. So, you've got to think through um, what it is that you want to receive as an output. And as Tom said, you always got to verify it too. So I actually verified some of the Cape zip codes to make sure that what I was getting was actually Cape Cod, and they were. So, hey, Jonathan, I'm going to call on you for a second because you were sharing something in, I think it was the URAR class, the new UAD class, about how you have used Chat GPT or one of the AI to kind of give you an I to kind of look analyze zoning requirements. Is that something you did?
Sure it did. Hey, Tom, great job. Thank you again for introducing all this stuff to all of us. It's wonderful. And Steve, that was another shameless plug you made for a class for the Mass Board of Real Estate Appraisals. I'm calling you out on that. So, guys, I'm so excited, like Tom is, about this new tool. And I'm like Tom, I take it very seriously in that whatever I'm getting back, I want to make sure that I can look at the judge and say, yeah, I agree with that fact. That I'm confirmed that this is what it is. So let's assume all of that, okay? So I'm doing appraisal, still in review, property in Chatham, land, and it had zoning. And I just said, well, man, I got the whole zoning book for Chatham on my computer. So I just kind of loaded in. I said, hey, in the R20 zone, can you give me the bullet points of what's actually in there? And so then I kind of looked and said, yeah, that the setback's right, everything's right. But it just made it so easy for me to take that and copy that into my report. And then I might give it the address and I'll just ask pertinent questions like, hey, I'm a real estate appraiser and I'm doing an appraisal here and I'm really interested in the surrounding area I'm just making this up now, of Harwich and in Chatham. Can you give me an idea of the region and what the standard homes are like or recreational in the summer? And I'll give you this long list of stuff and then you edit it and take care of it. Um, Let's see. Well, I haven't done the pictures yet, but as Tom was talking, an attorney just sent me a field card. So I dropped into ChatGPT, Tom, just a few moments ago and got a nice little bullet list of all the features of it, which I haven't checked yet, though. Haven't checked yet, but I will go and check that. But it's like, oh, what a great reference for me now for that. I don't have to be squinting at this silly form. Neighborhoods, I've done that, but I guess I'm more excited at the moment of just the photographs and see what they can do for me. Um, I just treat it as a really, really smart assistant, and gives me some I would say maybe not raw data, but kind of first course data, and I'll go through it. Other things that I've done too is I've taken my reconciliation of, I reconcile every approach and I reconcile the three approaches. But I was doing this really, really big report and, $15 million. And I said, it really deserves a better explanation than my skinny paragraph. So I said, hey, ChatGPT, reference my USPAP manual, which I can load up in there. Also, I've paid for it, and build me a robust. And this is what for the cost approach. I used the cost approach, or I didn't use the cost for these reasons. Income, same reason, and I gave most weight to the sales comparison. And of course, within about 15 seconds, beautiful three paragraphs. And I read through it. I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I got to change that. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, wow, am I not the smartest guy? The answer is no. But with ChatGPT, I can pretend to be one. And you can do the same thing for your comparables too. Now, we didn't talk about this, Tom, but I use a lot of, either put my prompts in or I'll speak my prompts in. And that makes it really easy too. Saying, okay, I've got these three comparables. I'm giving most weight to this, most weight for this reason, etc. And then I'll let it go ahead and clean it up for me. So, wow, Tom, doesn't it, especially since we're getting older, doesn't it just make this job easier and we can stay in business longer?
It reminds me of the old days when appraisers did have assistants.
Yeah.
I
So,
started out as one, actually.
That was
So,
great, Jonathan. Thank you.
so are there any questions or other comments, or maybe use examples that you've done yourself?
Steve, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Um, I'm probably, quite possibly, the only assessor on this meeting. Sorry to jump on your bandwagon here, but I'm curious if Tom has ever come across an application, or will ChatGPT do this for me? If I load in, say, the database of my town, will it give me a neighborhood map? Because this is one thing that I'm having a hard time having Patriot produce. I can work with my GIS manager, but I want to be able to update it on the fly. I want it to happen on almost a daily basis. So I don't know if I load all that into ChatGPT or some other service, will it produce a map and say, hey, here's your neighborhood five, here's your neighborhood six, this is where they all are in town, so I can see those visually.
I haven't tried that yet personally. I've fooled around with GIS, but I haven't um, tried to have AI take a large data set and map it all out.
Mm.
But I imagine it's probably possible. It's worth a try.
Yeah, it seems to me that this AI stuff is like give it a shot and see if it happens.
Right. And
You know.
and different AIs work differently, so you might get different results from different AIs.
Okay.
They're not all
All
at the
right.
same level and they don't all focus on the same things.
Well, we'll give it a shot and report back to you folks later.
Cool.
Yeah, Steve, actually, I'm running that Cape Cod Excel file through ChatGPT right now to see if it'll map the zip codes for me. So I may have an answer for you in a minute. That
There you
some
go.
of it's possible.
Well, it's funny. While we were sitting here doing this, I might be looking at a few abatements here, being that it is February, um, and I might have a few repeat offenders in the pile in front of me. But I just typed in there, hey, I want to know what R&D space was renting for in my town in 2024. And ironically, it came back with numbers that are spot on to what my vendor has in the system. My next phone call is going to be to my vendor to say, what did you use to get that number?
Okay.
Does it tell you what
Right?
the sources of the data was?
No, it just talked in generalities. It
Oh.
actually did drop in LoopNet and Realmo.
Hmm.
So yeah, we all know who LoopNet is. I've never heard of Realmo. don't know what that is, but um, I just hope he's not solely using AI. That's my whole thing that scares me. But
Right. I hesitate to, well, I have asked about rental information, but I would hesitate to use the results from that.
100%. Yeah.
So, Steve, the result I got was a map of zip codes, and then the Chat GPT came back and asked me if I wanted to show town names instead of zip codes.
Wow.
So, it'll come back. Now, one other thing we didn't talk about, Tom, was free versus paid versions. And, the paid versions are interesting because you there's a lot more content in, and when you think about GPTs, by the way, just in Chat GPT, um, there's a link on the left hand side, and you can go down and you can look at the different GPTs that they have. They have, ones for image create generator, logo creator, art, and there's probably you know uh, several dozen GPTs out there that have already been created. I needed an image of an appraiser standing in front of a house with a clipboard to use in some promotional material. Wanted it generic, okay? I got back an image looking like it was a photograph, okay, with an individual standing out front who looked like most of us on the screen right now, gray, and it was a male, and balding, okay. Um, so it can do different things. It can create video. Um, there's all just kind of different things that you should do. But I finally opted into the um, paid version of Chat GPT, which for a single seat I think might be around $300 or so a year, but it is much more robust. And then there's one other thing that you can do is a you can create, I think, a temporary session with Chat GPT, and that's all I use. And a temporary chat actually does not go outside of your domain in a sense. So it's good if you're putting in if you're doing a chat and one example that I read on using this is if you're asking medical questions of Chat GPT, it doesn't save it. It doesn't use it for learning. It doesn't share it. Okay. It just gives you back answers to what you asked for. So, but it's also important that you understand what Chat GPT or any of the GPTs will do with your data when you enter it. So I should be quiet. Okay.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for bringing that up, Steve. Because I'm exploring something and I'm lost right now. Maybe Tom, you can help me out. Or I was trying to I do a paid version of ChatGPT, so it's 5.2 is what I have Pro, and I wanted to create my own appraiser GPT. And so I was just fooling around with it. So I loaded up my USPAP manual. I loaded up the Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal because I purchased that and put that in there. And I put some Fannie Mae updates. I put my ANSI manual in there. And I haven't really had any reason to really use it at the moment. But I was thinking if I could kind of build my own little, hey, first of all, here's my knowledge base. First look at all this kind of stuff. Tom, do you have a comment on that?
I haven't tried anything like that yet. I've considered, um, feeding it a bunch of my reports, but I want to keep everything in my reports confidential. But maybe taking out, you know, the rental data and the comp data and maybe trying to do something with that. But
Yeah, there is a
I
privacy
think you have a
setting
really
too.
good idea there.
You do have a privacy setting, but I understand that things can escape. And so I think it's really wise to be careful there. But, it's just like, where are we going with this? This is like the internet. It's like, oh, I don't need an internet. Oh, I can email. Oh, I can look up that restaurant. oh, I can look at the weather in France. You're just figuring all these things you can do, and we're in the beginning of this process.
Sometimes I think about the scary aspects of it, just about how good it's been getting and where it's going to leave us eventually.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, Steve Dunn, I don't know if you saw, and I don't know, one of our students here or listeners actually asked Chat GPT, and according to Chat GPT, it can create a map of an entire town with addresses, longitude, and latitude. You can also create maps in the let's see, in the coding language R. So
Mm.
um, happy exploring.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit more work on my part. I think by the time, like Tom and Jonathan were just indicating, I might just be going back to being a glorified property inspector. The whole system will value the whole town for me, right?
Could
So,
be. Greg, I think I
yeah.
just saw you, Greg Assetto, I think I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I was going to recommend that I've used this a little bit, and but I'm far from an expert. One of the things you can do is you can ask ChatGPT or any of these AI models to either optimize your prompt or write you a prompt. If you say, I have some data and I want to put it on a map, help me, and I'm going to tell me you're a tax assessor and this is tax data or whatever it is exactly. Tell it what it is you're trying to do and say, write me a prompt for this. And it will write the prompt, and then you can ask it to run it, and then you can say, "But I don't like this," and you can correct it, and it'll keep revising the prompt. Um, and eventually you can try and save the prompt, but it'll do some of that work for you. You don't have to get it perfect. It'll correct it, and it'll ask you what options you want if you're vague. I found that to be really helpful.
That definitely I haven't tried that myself, but that sounds very, very helpful.
Yeah.
There's always an easy way to do something, and you just ask the system how to do it.
Oh, yeah. You
May,
know, go ahead, Dory.
I'm sorry. May I ask if there's anyone else here who has used Chat GPT or another, AI tool to help them in the appraisal process, other than a few of the folks that have said something now? I'm just doing a little survey. So, okay. So, will this make you now think about it and maybe try something? You think it would be helpful to you? Yeah.
Okay. Dory, I
Thank
think
you.
we're ready for a little wrap up if you'd like to take us to that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Tom. Amazing. Thank you, everyone else, Steve, Jonathan, Gregory, everyone who has made some comments and, added some suggestions to all of this. It was a great conversation. So, Tech Time is going to be an ongoing series throughout the year, and we've got something exciting coming up for the residential folks. We are going to have a maybe four-part series on the new 3.6 software and the different software vendors who are creating these. We're going to have them come on and talk about what they're doing and where they are with the software, and that will give you, an opportunity to see what's out there if you haven't explored already. And that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. And we hope you join us for that and for a lot more exciting things to come.
And
Thank you,
and
everyone.
and that's already on our website, so you can go in. It's free for members, but you still have to register through our website. We are charging non-members for this one, so but our Tech Talk is designed to be free as a member benefit. So go on to mbrea.org, click on our calendar, I actually, right on the homepage, I think you'll see the link for the UAD software demos, and sign up. And you sign up for one, that'll put you into all three, and possibly four, as we add another one. So, and of course, there's all other classes there, like the new UAD class. And there's also the new valuation bias and fair housing laws and regulations class that is now required by the appraisers qualification board. So take a look at our education, and we enjoy seeing you all in our classes. So with that, Dory, I guess I will say thank you to you for putting this all together with the help of your committee. And also, Tom, again, thank you for all of your time putting that presentation together and sharing some really great information. And then thank all of you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you back on March 4th for that first UAD 3.6 demo presentation. So with that, I think you can all have a very good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye now.